We're gonna start
I
this
think
thing, see
so.
how it goes. All
I
right,
think
we'll see.
so.
Yeah. So we're on another design dilemma here.
Design dilemma.
And today we're joined by Dr. James York, an
Who is
expert.
terrified. Who is absolutely terrified. My name's James. I am a language teacher. Mostly I teach English as a second language here in Japan. I also teach some kind of elementary game design, and I'm interested in education. So I teach a class on education as well. I have never taught K-12. So these topics that are going to come up are terrifying for me. So
I am so excited for this. We'll see how this goes. Brief synopsis. You'll have 60 minutes to create ostensibly like a 45-minute lesson. And
okay.
that can take any shape that you want. But there are two confines. The first confine is that it's going to be over one of these topics. The first thing is our topic, and second we'll do our creative confine. But let's go ahead and spin this and see what we get in terms of our topic.
I really hope Earth Science comes up, just because we both have no...
The branches
come on, I
of
don't know
the
anything about the
government.
US.
Oh, shoot, you're right. You're in Japan. Well, that's definitely going to make this a little bit trickier.
Okay, I'm going to have to learn about civics as well then.
You just need to know the branches. There's 3 branches. It won't
Okay.
be too bad. That's a really easy one.
So it's going to be 15 minutes of me actually learning the content before. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what happens in education. So, yeah.
All right, well, sizable advantage here. I used to teach U.S. government, so a little bit of an advantage, but that's all right. Now, I did kind of pull a fast one here. I made our second creative confine only one option because I thought it would make it more fun.
Well, I was going to do this anyway, so...
Our creative confine is it has to be centered around a game. So we'll be making some kind of learning game, or you can adapt an existing game or something that would teach the 3 branches of the U.S. government. And Nick is going to jump on and be the judge.
Okay.
See what we did and see what we shared. But yeah, I'm going to jump into this. Good luck with the government portion.
Yeah. Okay.
And we'll go from there. Does that sound like a plan?
Sure, yeah. So, legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Okay.
Okay. I feel like I have a huge leg up here. I'm pretty confident at some point in my life I probably already played a game and or used a game around the 3 branches of government.
Well, let's just get the pedagogy of multilateralism first. So we're going to do some experience.
Okay, I'm going to get really weird with this because this is something I've been talking to Nick a lot about that I've wanted to do in a classroom setting, but I just never did it. I feel like I was never inspired to do it until after I moved into this position. So I think what I'm going to attempt to do is create a TTRPG. So this is like a D&D type game, but I'm going to make like a very like minimalist tabletop RPG.
Guided instruction. So that's going to be from me, and it's going to be some critical framing and some application remixing.
So Willowbrook, folks are worried. I want to make it Worrybrook. In the peaceful town of Worrybrook, folks were being worried.
Now I know that there's a really good game for teaching civics called iCivics. This could be the easy choice, but I think Chris might be using something like this as well. Let's see what kind of games they've got here. People's Pie, from taxes to spending. Okay, so that's economy. Argument Wars, real Supreme Court cases. Okay, so there's a Supreme Court case there. Branches of power. That's pretty much perfect, but it seems too obvious, right? I want to do something a little bit more out there. Pick leaders for each branch. Create a presidential agenda. Introduce bills and pass laws. Okay, so I think doing something like this...
Okay, well that was not a useful track to go down.
Support for that law turns into approval of your government.
Wow, okay, I'm learning a lot here.
So read the backstory aloud to all students. One student will be given a DM packet with an outline of the story. They should read the overview. At the same time, all other students in the group should complete creating their character as instructed on their character cards.
Propose a bill idea, sure.
Which idea for a new bill would you like to propose?
Okay, unpack this. What bills did you try and pass in your experience of the game?
So we have a character sheet for the city council person. And we'll make our template here. So typically these have like, so let's give for some reason you have strength, which is funny to me. You have charisma, lawmaking, like drafting, lawmaking. Oh, your ability, perception.
Yosh. Okay. It goes back here. It goes back there. So he can veto it, or she can veto it at this stage. Sign a bill into law.
Which bill would you like to review?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
You are the judge. That's a local judge. You are the judge, jury executioner of Willowbrook. You are elected by the townspeople to lead court.
So we're going to teach with this experience first, answer some questions, and then we're going to do some guided instruction here. So unpack your experiences. Share and unpack your experiences.
This is really going to test ChatGPT's ability to think. So plot is this. There are 5 players in the game. As you write this guide, reference these players to make decisions and choices. Let's see. Welcome to the Dungeon Mastermind. For the Willowbrook in this campaign, you will take on the role of storyteller guide. Oh shit. Okay, this actually might work.
We have thoroughly reviewed the law.
I
think this clause should be stricken because it violates a part of the... My colleagues disagree. The clause is indeed unconstitutional, but it violates a different area of the Constitution.
Oh dear.
Okay, so now I have to make a quick DM table. There's no way, by the way, that like this would not work. I don't think in most classrooms, but this is at least fun for me. If you got a certain group of kids, this would be incredible. Okay, so we have strength, charisma, lawmaking, and perception, which are their different abilities. I feel like lawmaking doesn't really make any sense because they wouldn't all make laws. So let's actually reference that really quick. Let's make find lawmaking and replace it with just law and order.
In your groups, consider what laws you'd like to see enacted in this class. Okay, I got 10 minutes.
Okay, challenge choose the persuasion trial. A magical, they must provide a diplomatic... Okay, we can expand on this too. This is very funny. If I can get this done in time, they're just going to end here and have to continue on in chapter 2.
There's a lot here. I'm going to have to throw it in. I got no time. Each group can review based on 1 page of this simple constitution.
The Chamber of Governance. Like, how do we even get here? Introduction. So take that introduction. Put that there.
Awesome. So how did it go?
It came down to the wire.
Okay. Where'd James go?
Back. He said he'll be right back. I think he has to decompress.
Hey, how's it going, fella?
Good. How did it go?
It was nerve-wracking. It was very informative for my own understanding of US government. So I said to myself, I know this game exists. Maybe Chris will use it. I should do something else. But I went for it anyway, so we'll see.
Nice. Lowering expectations, so then I'll be shocked when the quality is actually
it's very pedestrian.
Above and beyond. Okay.
Well, as is tradition, we'll let the guest share first.
Okay, so just wrote the objectives at the top and some things to remind me of what I'm going to do, like how am I going to teach this, the materials that I'm going to use, and what will I do as a teacher. So I actually went with the kind of pedagogy of multiliteracies approach, where it's experience, the iCivics, right?
Yeah,
you know,
I started here. That's why I'm laughing.
This
This is the very
is
first thing I pulled up.
right in my wheelhouse.
Following that, some critical framing, so where we apply what we learned to our daily lives. And then the application of that is where my actual game comes in. That's my real meta game version, which you're probably going to do yourself anyway. So if you go back to experience, I opened up iCivics because I knew that was a civics teaching game that is online, and I thought maybe there's something here. And then I opened up iCivics, and there was literally like learn the branches of US government. I was like, oh, I got to use this. So I used it for my own learning. So I went through the game and I spent a good 30 minutes going through this to actually understand what was going on myself, to try and get the core game loop, as we'd say, right? So the core game loop of the US government. So I did that as the experience phase. Then the guided instruction phase, which is below the next page, is it just simply have the students do a kind of think, pair, share kind of activity. So critical framing. So this is where we relate it to school. So who makes the laws in school? Who enforces them? Who interprets them? What are the current laws? And so it's like, what are the current laws? What's your opinion of it? Again, talk to your friend, and then talk to the class.
That's great.
I love that.
The kind of final part is, well, let's metagame this. Let's actually run our class as a government. So this is where the application comes in. It's the final step of the pedagogy of multiliteracies. It's everybody will be the executive branch. Everyone can come up with ideas. The legislative branch will form a senate based on. Actually, just as a little side note, I didn't get into what was the difference between the House of Representatives and the Senate. That was something I didn't understand personally, so just leave that there for a moment.
Right.
But so 2 students, everybody becomes the judicial branch, and then 1 person from each group is the president. So not a single person. I thought it'd be that's basically the structure that I was going with. And then there's 4 or 5 steps here. So step number 1. Think about the bills, like what laws would you like? What is your opinion? What's your partner's opinion? And then basically come up with some ideas for laws. 2 members from each group will actually be voting on the the bills. And other students will actually be doing hearings so they can actually talk about it. This was actually quite a tricky part that I'm not sure how we could actually do this, because how can the students think about the laws that they passed in terms of the Constitution? The iCivics game is really good at doing that, actually. It brings up the clauses and then parts of the Constitution that it may kind of interact with negatively. So the game itself it matches the clauses to the Constitution, whereas the students doing that themselves might be a little bit difficult. Step number 4 was to put it into action. So after a week or so, think about the laws that were passed, your opinion, your partner's opinion of that law, and does it need amending, essentially.
I like that.
And then finally, I actually ran out of time, but step 5 would be a reflection on the whole activity.
It's shocking that you put this together, because that's better than what I did when I taught this when I was teaching government. And this is what my degree's in. So I actually love that. That's incredible.
I think there's some bonus points there for, I guess, you were involved in some experiential learning yourself while you're going through it.
Absolutely.
I love the, there could even be, I was thinking of a little bit of a helper here, in the sense that, like, as a teacher, if you had understanding or the Constitution, you could have that simplified page and kind of play a role. Maybe you could be like a chief justice in that scenario and have a few students who you kind of deputize as that. So then you can be maybe that judicial intermediary, just bringing your background knowledge to bear on it. And maybe there's a sense too then of the legacy of the Supreme Court, since it is so much like an insulated institution, lifetime appointments. You could kind of play that role in class, I think, pretty well as an educator.
Like, I definitely use this branches of power thing, but I do like this idea. It kind of gets to your vaporwave teaching method, James, of taking that idea of you play the game, which is typically where I started and stopped. Like, we would play the game, we do a similar thing to what you did here, where like we'd write down things, we talk about it, and that was it. Like we never really did much with it after that. But I love this idea of then taking it down to the school level. And then having them act it out again. So you're doing the same activity again in different space, different time, even revisiting it with that amendment process, which I think is super cool, and slowing down. Just really ensure that kids understand what it is they're talking about. Super smart. I wish I would have had
that idea of actually experiencing it for real, right? The idea of experiential learning there at the end, to be like, well, I've learned about it through a kind of simulation. I kind of got it, but how does it actually work? Let's do it. Let's actually enact it.
You got a tough one to top here. This is how I felt the other day going up against Hedrick. Go ahead, Chris.
I will tell you, this is like a fever dream, because I went into it with an idea. I got about halfway through it and I realized there's no way I will have enough time to finish this. So I had to retcon half of the activity to make it happen. So I initially actually was going to use iCivics. And then I was like, well, that's too easy. I used iCivics. And then I already had made a game in the past where kids are presented with like a stack of cards, and it's
Mhm.
so simple. Like you have like cards that are like legislative, executive, judicial, and you sort them and like you confirm them. It's very basic, like key terms. I tried or attempted to make a tabletop RPG
Wow.
I love
where
it.
this is ostensibly a very minimalist Dungeons and Dragons game. So
Okay.
Yeah.
students would be put into groups of, this actually got changed to 5. So the group
yeah.
of 5, and there's just one concerned citizen. You have a DM, who's the kid who's guiding the entire thing, the dungeon master,
Okay.
a city council person, the legislative branch. I did the local level. So city council person, the mayor, the judge, and then one concerned citizen. The teacher, they are going to read this backstory aloud, which is on the next page to all the students. One student is going to be given the DM packet, and that DM packet has the outline of the entire story, and they're going to be reading the overview. At the same time, the students are going to be completing their character sheets, which I'll show in a second. The DM will then basically like read the instructions and follow them, and at the end they'll reflect on various discussion questions. I also did not have enough time to like make those discussion questions, but we would just talk about it. This is the plot of the game, which I'll let you know. I use ChatGPT extensively to use to like make this work. We're in the city of Worrybrook, and the idea of Worrybrook is that there's an ancient tree, again retcon to make this make sense. There's an ancient tree with magical powers, all right?
Okay.
At the same time, there's also some like shady, corrupted stuff going on in government, and somehow those two things are tied together. These are their character sheets. They all look the same. You have your title, a little background about the person. They make this really simple stat sheet. So they take one of these numbers and they assign them to each one of these things. So you have strength, charisma, law and order, and perception. So like you put like a 3-2-2-1 or like 2-2-1-3 or whatever it might be. That's going to come up later in the game. Then there's the DM guide. This is where it started to like really hit me on just how much work this is. So I forgot I have to instruct the DM on exactly what it is they do as a DM. So this generates the DM guide here. And then I explain how roles work for checks. So like if you have a strength check, a charisma check, a law check, or a perception check, and then like what do you do in these different roles? This is not a good activity to use with most groups of kids probably. And actually this turned out better than I was expecting it to. So this game is divided into 3 chapters, and each chapter has the DM reading a scenario and then having the characters interact with each other that explains to them the 3 branches of government. And then the dungeon master is encouraged to have the players introduce themselves to each other, and then it generated like things they might do. Like maybe the mayor starts off with a speech, or maybe the judge talks about seeking the truth and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So they do their introductions. Then they get a letter that tells them to go to the tree, because the tree has the key to unlocking the secrets of Worrybrook. The tree is ostensibly a very convoluted quiz game show. So the tree makes them solve challenges. Like the first thing, in order to even get into it, you have to unlock doors that relate to the executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branch. The trick is you can use your different checks to get around those things. So like, for example, if you roll a high law check, you can look up the answer online and you'll all figure it out together, etc. And so these are all like literally this entire thing are just various challenges. I'm most proud of editing the persuasion trial, which involves apparitions doing a simulated issue that you would find in your local town, like the town's air quality, and then you have to figure out a way to resolve that as you would in actual local government.
Get into the end game. What do you got? What are
the end game is
winning conditions here? How do we?
Well, at the very end, when they beat the tree, they have newfound magical abilities, and that's how it ends. They just gotta figure it out from there on how they use those magical abilities. They kind of just stops and falls off to like pure fever dream at this point, and then they can just keep playing the game.
James, you have no idea how many of these videos just end with me with my head in my hands because of some rabbit hole that Chris has gone down. This game exists just purely in his head. This is incredible. I think there is the seed of something that's very cool here, and with a little bit of simplification, and of course, like then some front loading with kids, with the caveat being that your explanation of this felt like that cliche of the person who's explaining an overly complex board game that then nobody will want to play at the end. So that was a problem.
There is no winner because it's about teamwork where all of us work together to eventually beat the winner, who determines who the losers are.
So it's work as a team?
No, because out of the top 4 players, right? It's better
There's 3 of us.
Yeah, it's better with 8 people.
It would be too hard for me to actually get the core learning point there, but it was a great idea for a TRPG. Yeah, I liked it a lot, but yeah, a little bit too extravagant perhaps. Chris felt he was against me. He had to like level up his gaming or something. So,
but here's the deal, right? Like people can access the links here and take that and turn it into something cool or make it useful
if you
for them in their
this,
context.
Please let me know. I need to know.
he will
even
send
like,
you $100.
Oh, that seems like a cool idea. I'll make my own thing that doesn't work the way Chris's brain works. Then that's probably fine too. But yeah, I can't wait to see the final product, guys. This was fun. Hey, thanks all for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe. If there are other people we should reach out to, either to be judges or competitors on Design Dilemma, let us know in the comments.